Good afternoon, evening, whatever it is, gentlemen, to another episode of the Blind Pig, courtesy of Burgundy and Gold Obsession, bgobsession.com. It's a pleasure to kind of put together a little special treat here. We're going to do a mock draft about 24 hours. We're about probably about 25 hours from when the Commanders are going to be on the clock, I think, maybe 26. So figured we'd put one last episode together, draft related, run down a simulated mock where we actually run a simulator. Each one of us is assigned a draft pick, and we see how the thing shakes out, see how the board goes, and see what kind of a draft we come up with, and see if we're going to prove that we're smarter than Rivera and company once again. Anyways, real quick intros. Top left is Paul, also known as Canadian Hog. Bottom left is Mark. You can call him Ohm. Bottom right is Bob, better known as Neophyte. Top right is John. You can find him named Boone, and I am Derek. Silent threat on the board. Feel free to jump in, have a conversation, or tell us that we don't know what we're doing. Without further ado, I think we can launch this because this might be a little bit of fun. It might take a little longer. So I will share my screen. The draft simulator we're going to use tonight is PFF, Pro Football Focus. I found that it's the cleanest. I enjoy their stuff. Let's share a link to it in our YouTube page so we don't get fired from YouTubing because we've broken some unwritten rule.
Oh, they're written.
So I was on social media today. This is our statement of fact. I was on Twitter and Facebook. All I saw all day was how sick people were of mock drafts. So this is the only one we do. We do one right before the draft. That's it. So you don't have to watch it. This is your warning. You can go ahead and log off if that's not your thing. But we do have fun with it, and we do it once. So
that's right.
It's not our fault if you're burned out on mock drafts.
That's true. We did wait till the end, but then again, everybody else has been working on bad information until now. So it's silly season. All right, so pick the Commanders, pick an 11th. We're going to go slow speed to start. We'll speed things up as the draft goes, but we can kind of see how the first round is anticipated to shake out. You guys are seeing my screen, correct?
We are.
Yeah.
All right. And Jaguars on the clock. Real quick, who do you guys think goes number one overall?
Well, it sounds like it's going to be Trayvon Walker if what I saw on Twitter a little while ago is accurate, but who knows?
Hutchinson's been the leader in the clubhouse, but it's about to get crazy.
It is about to get crazy. EB from the Junkies made the greatest line, said the greatest line ever. Everybody lies during this part of the draft unless you pick number one overall because nobody can do anything about it. You don't have to hide it anymore. Go ahead and tell them who you take.
Kind of weird that we've got a year where, I mean, nobody really knows. We knew that
Lawrence,
that the quarterback with the hair last year, we knew he was going to go number one.
Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
We knew from the year before we knew, but not this year.
I think we even knew who we were going to pick last year. I think that'd have been the biggest shock of all time if we didn't take Chase Young at number 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay. Well, whenever we took him.
That's right.
Yeah,
all right.
Last year was a shocker for everybody. Nobody expect Jamin Davis.
Except for this guy. I picked him in the draft in the on the clock challenge that we had going on. Led me to my victory and my Fitz Magic t-shirt. All right, let's kick this thing off. And Aiden Hutchinson, number one overall.
The Lions are happy to get Walker.
Yep. I think Houston can make some noise in this draft, by the way. The 2 picks in the top 13. They could get a starting left tackle and a starting quarterback.
I've heard a lot of noise that the Giants are desperately trying to trade out for that top pick, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. Well, there's Evan Neal, Paul, so I guess he got drafted.
Yeah.
Hamilton's gone.
And Williams is the first guy, first wide receiver off the board. Wait a minute. Who is George Karlaftis, and why have I never seen him even available in top 10?
I just happened to see a highlight package on him on NFL Network. They call him the Greek Freak or something like that.
I've never even seen that name mentioned in the top 10. Yet there he is.
And interestingly enough, his comparable is Ryan Kerrigan.
Ryan Kerrigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, big beefy white guy.
Do you guys think Neil could drop all the way to us? I think that's one wild card that could, from our team's vantage point, could throw us into a last minute tizzy if he dropped to us.
Could. I guess it would depend on what the reason was and how comfortable the team was. How big a gamble would it be? If he drops to us, it's because it's a gamble, right?
Something's going on. Somebody knows something. You know, it's like the draft day movie. He freaks out when the defensive lineman's on the field.
So Derek, I feel like the pick is in at this point. I feel that the way that this draft has fallen so far, I think it has made it fairly simple for me to make my pick. Ultimately, I think we need to land a receiver at this spot in the draft. I always felt last year like a few more impact players and difference makers on the offensive side of the ball could have made a real difference in several games. And there's a severe power outage in Washington. We need playmakers. We lack playmakers. We need to add a little bit of electricity to this offense. I think that we can add someone in Drake London, who I will take as my pick, who would be a very, very good complement to what we have at the wideout position. We have some pretty good speed there with McLaurin, Samuel, and De'Ami Brown as well. The size of Drake London just makes him a perfect complement for Terry McLaurin. And when you think of it, when wide receivers are going to be making like upwards of $25 million for the upper echelon receivers, having potentially a very impact player on a very cheap contract for the next 4 or 5 years is very appealing to me. So I think he needs to be the pick here.
Everybody on here. So Drake London, the pick with the and there we go. Now we're gonna speed this up a little bit because it's gonna be a little while.
One of my comments when we were talking wide receivers, one of the reasons I like Drake London is, you know, with our tight end, you know, his health being a little bit of a question mark still, or durability maybe would be the better way to put it. I felt like, I know he's not a tight end, but he is that big, really big, strong guy, physical guy that can go up and make contested catches and go over the middle, you know, versus having another speedster like Samuels or Terry McLaurin or, you know, De'Ami Brown. I feel like we are missing that guy, and it would be a little bit of insurance if Logan Thomas were to get dinged or unavailable. So I really like that pick. I know a lot of people like Garrett Wilson. Will probably be what the people that are watching would be screaming like, how can you pass on him? But I like the pick.
Well, we talked about this on one of our previous podcasts. What London is a receiver we haven't had here. He's not only, it's one thing to be tall. I mean, Cam Sims is tall. People say, yeah, Cam Sims is your 6'4" guy. He doesn't play big though. He's not a big body. London is a big, solid Mike Williams, Mike Evans kind of body. We haven't had that guy. I like the idea of him posting up on one side and Terry up on the other side.
So
I would be very happy with that pick.
Before we get to the second pick, there was an interview with Ron Rivera, I think yesterday or the day before, where he was talking about that they liked / loved one of the quarterbacks in this draft, and if he were available, they would, they would certainly have to think about it. What if that quarterback was Willis, who I saw was, I think he got taken in by the Saints at like 19 in our little draft here, but do you think there's any possibility, assuming that that's the guy they're talking about, and he may not be, any chance that we would pick him at 11?
I don't think so. I think you've invested in Wentz. Me personally, a lot of people say you've given Wentz so much, you made such a large investment, you spent so much money. I don't think that way. I feel that the quarterback, just the market's different. You know what I mean? You're buying a luxury vehicle at that point, and it might have all the same. That Lexus ES300 might have all the same components as a Toyota Camry, but because it's a Lexus, you got to pay more. Same thing with the quarterback. What we gave up for Wentz, I don't think is actually detrimental to the point that some people do. But you did give up and you invested in Wentz. And if you're going to invest in anything in a quarterback, a vet quarterback, then you take one with your first round pick, you're doing him a disservice by not giving him a weapon or using that to help the team around him instead of helping the team behind him. But so if Willis is there, I could see us more realistically on the phone with someone like Pittsburgh or New Orleans for that matter, trying to get out of that pick. Because Houston could be on the market for a quarterback. They're likely the next one that I'm looking at on just the quick board that would be there to pick it. So if Pittsburgh or New Orleans decided they fell in love with him and they felt Houston was, a threat to them, maybe they're more of a trade scenario than they are us actually picking scenario.
I've wondered about the Eagles as well, though, if there's someone they really love that they think they can move up and grab, because I don't think they're sold on Jalen Hurts. I think he's in his last season, unless he really shows them something this year. So I think they could be a wild card.
I know you all know how I feel about it. If John, your question was if they love him,
Yeah.
then my answer is absolutely yes. You would take him if he fell to you. If you find a quarterback you love, unless you've got a perennial Pro Bowler on your roster, you take him. I won't come off of that probably ever until we actually have that guy.
Well, you don't get many chances to do that, right? That's the reason.
So just a quick recap here. Looks like Willis was actually the first quarterback off the board, followed by Pickett at 32 to the Lions. Sam Howell went 37 to Houston. I figured they would take a quarterback that needs every position. That is terrible.
If Pickett falls to 32, I mean, I'll eat my BGO hat. There's no way.
I don't think so either. I mean, I've seen a lot of projections that the first one comes off the board at 6 with Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw a report, was it today or yesterday, that Carolina has told Sam Darnold's representatives that it's very likely they'll be taking a quarterback in this draft.
I think they take Pickett.
And there's a very real possibility he could go missing at 6. And if that's the case, then what happens between 7 and 10 will be very interesting to see. Teams potentially trading up to get the guy they want, or maybe some teams on this list taking a guy that they don't necessarily that people aren't currently thinking about. I'm looking at Seattle at 9. Are they really sold on Drew Lock? No, I'm not. I'm not even sold on Drew Lock for this next year, much less for career. Do you really take a safety instead of if you think there's a quarterback there, if you think one of these guys, Howell maybe, I don't know, can play that game, do you leave him there and hope, or I don't know?
I think both of those quarterbacks are gone by 11.
Willis,
I tell you what, if Pickett were not gone, either way, whether you ascribe to what Mark said, which is if you love the guy, unless you have a Hall of Famer or perennial Pro Bowler under center, you have to take him there. And I would agree if it was Pickett. But either way, even if you don't ascribe to that theory, that would be the best thing that could ever happen to us, because that's a trade down scenario right there where we're going to be able to name our price if Kenny Pickett's sitting there at 11.
At 11, right.
I also saw an interesting article on ESPN where one of the writers went through and projected potential trades for every single one of the first 32 picks, reasons why, and teams that might want to trade for them. And ours was one of the most interesting write-ups because he felt like it was very possible that the Eagles might try and trade with us to get to 11. And he stated that, he knows that interdivision trades like that are very rare, but we've dealt with them before, and only dropping back 4 slots to 15 would be relatively appealing to me if I could pick up that 3rd round pick in this draft, as deep as that second tier of talent is. You're going to get somebody solid. The drop off between any of these guys at that point is not tremendous. So
Garrett Wilson went 15. At that point, Olave's still on the board. I think as far as playmakers goes, that's probably where you're going to go. It looks like there was a run on wide receivers. Jamison Williams, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. If you end up with one of those four, you're in pretty good shape. All right, so we'll move down to 47, second round. Sorry, I didn't introduce Paul as the first round pick, but I believe, was it Bob? Do you have 47?
I have 47. Yeah. And there's oddly enough, there's people on this board that were never present in any of the test run throughs I did yesterday, which I find intriguing.
Because you kept messing with those defaults.
Well, it may be because I kept messing with those defaults, but even the one I ran on default settings, like the big linebacker from Wisconsin was never there. I mean, he's ranked the 36th best player in the draft, and we're now down to pick 47, right?
I like that kid.
Brisker is always there. Every time I've run a mock on this site, Brisker is popping up there.
Yeah, Brister is right there about that spot too, right? There's about two guys ahead of him almost every time. He's in that second or third spot. So here's the thing, and I guess it comes down to, because I feel like this pick's got to be a linebacker. I just feel like it has to be, and I guess it comes down to, do the coaches feel like Cole Holcomb really can step in and play that middle linebacker role full-time permanently? And if he can do that, then you take a guy like Leo Chenal, who can play any one of the three positions, but is probably going to be better on one of the two outside positions. If you don't, I think you slide down and you pick up Troy Anderson.
I've wrestled with that, Bob. I have a man crush on Troy Anderson.
I know. And after watching all the, and what comes down to, here's the thing, and what it weighs it a little bit for me, and that's the fact that Leo has more game experience in college than Troy does. Troy really only has a season and a half, 2 seasons under his belt at linebacker. The rest of the time was all on offense. But I feel like that gives him a completely different way of looking at the game.
But also his body's in a different. He hasn't been running into a wall for as many games.
Right. That's true. That's true. But the thing about Chenal is he's not just a big run stopper. He's a vicious pass rusher. And talk about changing the dynamic. And I wasn't expecting to have to make this choice when we got here. I thought it was pretty cut and dried, in all honesty.
So just to throw one other iron into the fire, I read earlier today that the team had actually researched all the way back to like high school playing days on a certain quarterback from Mississippi, who I really hope they don't go after, but
not interested.
You see him on your screen right now. So that could be total smoke as well. Then
the only way I'm interested in a quarterback in the second round is if we trade back in the first round and pick up a second round pick. Otherwise, I feel like the middle of the defense is just hurting too bad, and we have to figure out a way to shore that linebacker position up. All right. I'm going with Troy Anderson. Pull the trigger on the kid from Montana State, man. That's
I was just about to open my mouth and make that decision harder for you.
Oh, were you? Well, go ahead before he punches the button.
Leo Chenal's 94.1 run D grade was 94.1. Micah Parsons was 94.8. He's right there. He's that kind of player. But like I said, I had a man crush on Anderson, so I had no problem with either of them.
I've got a bit of a crush on Anderson too. The thing I think about Anderson is I feel like he's got more upside at this point in time because he got a late start on the position. And you just got to feel like old linebackers like Rivera and oh my gosh, now I can't remember. Thank you. You just got to feel like they're going to figure out a way to get the best out of this kid.
The only thing I'll caution you on, Bob, is and I think we may have talked about this during the defensive draft pod, is that he's only been at linebacker for one season. And we just saw what happens when you draft a really talented guy who's only had one season at his position. In Jamin Davis last year. I'm not saying it's going to be the same way, but that is a risk when you only have 1 year of data on a guy.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's fair. I still want Anderson.
It's kind of a swing for the fences pick, right? The potential upside is huge there. Just really huge.
The other thing that we're taking into consideration is the very likelihood that Chanel's not there.
Yeah, I don't think he's available at 47 tomorrow.
If we're also trying to, in the back of our mind, trying to say, how could this unfold tomorrow? Chances are Chanel's not there.
I'm kind of hoping Quay Walker's there instead, because I really like him.
Where did he go? He went
344 to the
ahead of
Browns.
us. And this.
Brees Hall came off the clock at 42, first running back. Desmond Ridder, my guy, came off 41 to Seattle, which that is terrifying to me. All right, are we going with Troy Anderson?
Yeah, we're going with Anderson.
Lock it up.
All right, so we fill two perceived positions of need.
Wide receiver and linebacker. So we got a little ways to go. Who has 113? I don't remember.
I've got 113.
So what are you looking for here, Mark?
Well, my first order of business was going to be linebacker, clearly. And actually the first order of business at 1 was going to be in this order: Hamilton, Jameson Williams, Drake London. Those are my top 3 selections at 11. We got one of them. I'm happy about that. I'm happy with getting a solid linebacker prospect as 2. That kind of opens up the board for me, and I'm curious to see what comes up as available. As many times as I ran this thing, I got severely tempted to end up going with, and I think I probably will going with best player available, because I'm not going to reach here. I haven't found a whole lot of reaches that I was comfortable with for like tight end or
when Jelani Woods just
thought,
all of the mocks that I've done on this. The top rated tight end who's generally left for me is the guy out of Virginia Tech, and I think that's a reach.
James Mitchell. Is that
James Mitchell? When you watch him play, I went and did some highlight watching of the kid, and he looks, at his best, he looks like a young Jordan Reed. He's very athletic, and he almost looks like a big receiver. He's got good hands, but when you start drilling down into it, and what most of the draft analysis is that he's kind of lacking in some of the other skills you need to have as an NFL linebacker. He doesn't necessarily turn and make himself available very quickly to his quarterback, and which says to me that he's not maybe reading things all that well. Not all that physical.
Too, Mark. He missed almost all of last year with a knee injury, which is something just to.
But you know what really did it for me in the end is I watched games that he did play in, and he was just a non-factor to me. He just never jumped off the page at all. So I can't make that choice based on a perceived need. At safety at this position, Derek, pull up the top rated safeties that are left here.
ST, is that safety? No, that's special teams.
That was special teams. I'm not taking that punter.
Come
on, we should trade up to take a punter, like
Yeah, and Dane Belton's a little guy. I went and looked at him.
Ron McKinley is one of the guys that I highlighted when the safety.
That seems like a real big reach there, right? He's ranked at 180. I can't do it. So I started looking at best player available. That's kind of a need for us, and I'm going to end up going with OL depth here. I took a look at Kellen Deesh, who I'll admit.
Can we scroll down to 113, because we're not looking at the guys that are available right now.
Yeah, we are.
There we are.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
That's their rankings there.
Guys they're showing the rankings. Okay. All right.
So Deesh is a 6'7", 300 pound, behemoth. He's a left tackle in college. He looks like a right tackle to me, and he potentially looks like a pretty good right tackle. He's very athletic. He plays a little high, which is a little scary to me. At left tackle, I can't see it. I think he'd be a solid right tackle option. And looking at our roster, we have 2 kids, and then we got 2 old dudes. We got 2 dudes who are going to be 31 come, and Lucas and Leno are both going to be 31 this season. Neither one of them is a fixture. I see Cosme moving to left tackle eventually, and Sadiq Charles is still kind of an unknown. So that's tempting to me. However, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a guard out of Oklahoma named Marquise Hayes,
Marquise Hayes.
who I went and did a little
Too
looking
far.
at.
Come back,
I
come
went-
back.
I went and looked at that man a
Right
little
there.
bit too. And I kind of, this is too high praise, but he reminds me of Trey Johnson. Remember Trey playing in the
Oh,
middle
big
for
Trey.
us?
Yeah. He had the big
He-
old neck roll, right?
Yes. Trey, yeah. Trey kind of had, or Marquise is it's just a mauler. He's raw and unrefined, but he's got an attitude and he throws people to the ground. Sometimes he gets penalized. They say, I mean, that doesn't show up on the YouTubes, but he is 6'5". He's 320 already. And what kind of sold me, the more I looked at him, is a comment out of one of the AFC, where'd that go? One of the AFC execs said something about how he's kind of raw and that's going to scare some people off, but he's got an NFL body and NFL physical skills, and that coaches love that. And they draft that guy up and they think they can coach him. And before you know it, he's been in the league 8 years. That was the quote. Something like that. So I am not an expert on this, gentleman, but I like the idea of beefing up the middle and getting some attitude and a guy to add some depth in the rotation in the OL. So we're going to go with Marquise Hayes, offensive guard, Oklahoma.
Well, just real quick, according to PFF, he's a 4-star recruiting from 24/7 Sports, and he's rated as a 3rd rounder. So at the end of the day, I think that's a net win, right?
I think
And-
so too.
And obviously we lost 2 guards and we have Schweitzer, but Schweitzer's no spring chicken. If he can come in and push, and there's a transition now, to not to take anything away from Schweitzer. He played well, but there's a reason he was a backup last year. And if we can, develop so that in a year and a half, 2 years, he's a backup again, because we have 2 young studs at guard. Younger studs at guard. That'd be great. So I'm gonna draft. We're taking Marquise Hayes, correct?
I'll tell you why that's a really smart pick. And I was actually hoping Mark wouldn't go offensive lineman, so I could be the smart one with the next pick. But I think you have to keep in mind in the draft, there are certain positions like wide receiver. People say trade back, pick a wide receiver on day 2. Well, that's fine, except by the time you get to day 2, most of the really good wide receivers are gone, long gone. Not that you can't find one, but you're less likely to find one on day 2 and day 3. Whereas with the offensive linemen, those guys are just going to naturally be drafted later in most cases, and there are exceptions. But so you're much more likely, I think, to get really great values in this on day 2 than other positions. So I think it's smart to look at that position, the 3rd, 4th, 5th round and beyond.
And I like my interior offensive linemen to have attitudes. I really do.
The other nice thing about that pick, Mark, I'm very, very happy that you obviously went with an offensive lineman, at the beginning of day 3. I think it gives a little bit of a push to a guy like Sadiq Charles, who some can argue, he needs to figure it out soon, or his days in the NFL could potentially be done. So a guy like Hayes can come in and push him. The other thing is to remember as well, you got a guy like Wes Schweitzer on a expiring contract. He's got 1 more year left. The draft is all about succession planning as much as it is about acquiring talent. So I think that's a really good pick in terms of planning for our future and ensuring we have some stability long-term along our offensive line. And you use that word raw with Marquise Hayes. I don't think a word like that scares off a guy like John Matskos whatsoever. I think he hears a word like that and he eats it up. And he's
Yeah,
like,
he's
you
a-
know what? The guy has the tools. I can work with this kid and mold him.
Yep. Yep.
So there are like three
100%.
offensive linemen that I was targeting. Azudu from North Carolina, Zachary Thomas, and a couple other guys. Jason Poe I had on my list for pick 189. But I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this because I guess right now, if we were looking at need, we would look at corner. But I've been saying this for a while that I think they want Wentz to have maximum weapons. So I think not only are we going to pick a wide receiver, I think we're going to pick a running back as well. And especially because we've had issues with our running backs being able to stay on the field. Running backs have a relatively short shelf life in the NFL. So I'm going to go with a guy that I really love at running back, and that is Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama. He doesn't get a lot of hype, and that's mostly because he spent most of his career backing up Najee Harris at Alabama. But last year, he's 6'2", he's 225. And if you remember when we were talking offense in the offensive draft prospects pod, we were talking about really we need that guy that can really like pound the ball, be a punishing running back, short down back, possibly, to kind of spell Antonio. Because we already have plenty of guys that can catch the ball, including, of course, McKissick. Brian Robinson is 6'2", 225. He's pretty fast. He ran a 4.53 in 2021, which is the first year he really got to start as a running back because, again, he backed up Najee Harris. In 14 games, he ran it 271 times, 1,343 yards, 14 touchdowns, and he can also catch the ball. He had 35 catches for almost 300 yards and a couple more touchdowns. So he's a really good all-around back. He is described as a bulldozer, a road grader, and a tackle breaker. And to me, that's the kind of running back. Sounds a lot like Antonio Gibson in some ways, but maybe a little bit more of this guy likes to hit, not a converted wide receiver, but likes to hit. So that's who I'm going to go with because, again, there are other guys that I think Hassan Haskins, if he's still on the board, I like him quite a bit. There's a tight end, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. I'll just throw his name out there in case he's available later. This kid, it has a lot of upside. He's super, he's big. He's 6'4", 245. Caught almost 60 catches for 912 yards and 12 touchdowns. Without a lot of experience at tight end, he's one of those guys that he's a physical beast and has he's kind of raw, but has a lot of potential. And he's from a small school, so he doesn't get as much attention. But I'd be tempted to look at a guy like that. But and then I also had some late wide receivers, but I don't see us taking 2 wide receivers in the draft. But I really like Velus Jones from Tennessee and Tyquan Thornton. But I'm going to go with a running back here because I think that's a really great value. And I think this guy is a little bit of a hidden gem. So Brian Robinson Jr. from Alabama.
John, I love that pick. I was actually looking at him. I'm watching a little YouTube's right now. He's got forward lean from the minute he gets the ball. Everything's moving forward, no wasted motion, and he is not afraid of contact. I like the kid.
I actually looked at him when we did the offensive stuff. I had running back, and I took a long, hard look at him, and I thought seriously about throwing his name in the mix. But what I was reading at the time, and I don't know, maybe something's changed in the last week or two. What I was reading at the time was that he is undervalued in most drafts, and that a lot of the really smart minds think he could go as high as the second round now after his Cotton Bowl performance. So
Also,
so we just got great value.
yeah. In this case, yes. If he's still there on Saturday, yeah.
All right, Brian Robinson.
Devontae Price was another guy I looked at. He's more of he's like a 4.38, 40-yard time, and he's more of can take it to the house. He had multiple touchdowns of 65 yards or more in his last 14 games, multiple. So he's kind of the opposite of a Brian Robinson type, but he was another guy I looked at. But as far as the running backs go.
All right, on to the purgatory of picking in the 7th round.
Hey,
I
Cam
honestly-
Sims is a second. Cam Curl is a 7th round pick, man.
Yeah,
These
well,
things
I'm-
matter.
Yeah, they. Oh, I didn't say they didn't matter. It's just the purgatory is the one that has to pick it.
Yeah, it's not easy when you get to the later rounds.
All right. Let me take a quick look at the board here. One thing I don't
Joshua
like.
Williams still on the clock on the.
I know that's surprising.
I'm
Sanborn
surprised-
and Williams, actually some pretty good defensive backs. Brad Hawkins is pretty well, and Sean
Yeah.
Jolly.
Yeah. I'm surprised they list center as being a need. We kind of adequately played with 4 of them last year.
Really?
I don't
Yeah.
know why they list that as being a need.
Well, and they list quarterback is in need, which is kind of interesting, right?
All right. There's a couple names that are jumping out at me. Obviously Joshua Williams. Don't expect him to be there. Brad Hawkins, I like him a lot. But as I was doing some research on this, there's a couple names that are jumping out at me. Conor Hayward is one, and I don't believe we've taken a tight end. Is that correct?
That's
No,
correct.
This guy is, I can't figure him out. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to draft this guy because I've never seen a tight end listed at 5'11.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay. I don't understand it, but he keeps popping out. But let's move on. Ryan Van Denmark is a name that I looked into quite a bit when I was doing some research for this. This guy is just a mountain. 6'7", 304. That guy's, I mean, he's borderline skinny at that point, but he appears to be a pretty good developmental tackle. I don't know that I'll go there because we took a guard earlier. Another name that I've come back to on this part relatively regularly, and he's gone 2 picks ago, is Dijin Dixon. I like him out of Nichols. Kind of pisses me off that he's gone.
So Josh Sills is another one, man. He's another. I don't know if he played tackle at Oklahoma State or guard, but
Right.
I want to say guard. But he's 6'6", 325, and he's supposedly like a Joe Bugle type man. He's just got like the nastiest streak of all time, old school.
Just mad at everybody.
I mean, he's like a road grader, run blocker. That guy.
I'm just gonna see what else we've got going on here. Tyler Goodson is another name that I kind of liked, but he's on the smaller side, and we've already drafted a running back.
Mark would like you to think about another linebacker.
What about D line? What about interior D line or because we also talked about that, I mean, that's been a big topic this week, right? We're not gonna sign a new contract with one of the few D linemen we still have on the roster.
So I want to, thinking about that, somebody threw an interesting idea out on the board today, and what I found interesting was that nobody actually turned their nose up at it, and that's the idea that Del Rio may be flirting with going back to a 3-4. If he's flirting with going back to a 3-4, how many linebackers do we currently have on the roster?
I don't think
we
can-
have 4 linebackers on the roster at the moment.
I don't think so either.
So I'm thinking that we've got to find some more linebacker talent from somewhere if we're even vaguely thinking about that idea.
Well, I'd push back on that. I don't want to turn Jonathan Allen into a nose tackle. My God, we've been there before. We just spent the last,
True.
5 years finally putting together a 4-3 roster and fitting pieces to it.
Right, and I do not want to see John Allen again talk about purgatory as a space eating block eater.
No.
I'm gonna zig a little bit, and I'm gonna go back to what Rivera said, that there will be 3 quarterbacks on the roster, correct?
Yeah.
Who's
And
available?
right now we only have 2. Brock Purdy, but I think he's a little bit undersized, is
Who's
one
the
that's
guy we were
available.
talking about before we went on the air?
Caleb Ellaby is available, and he, if I'm remembering correctly, just put up stupid statistics. Is that right? No, that's not even who I'm thinking about.
No, you're thinking about the kid from Louisiana, right?
Cole Kelly. You guys were talking about Cole Kelly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is he still on the?
No, I think he's long gone.
I think he's
Quarterback
long
list.
gone.
Caleb Ellaby's available.
I am gonna go.
No, he's
Jack-
available.
Oh, that is cool.
Cole
Jack
Kelly's
Cohn
available.
is still available. Oh no, Cole Kelly, he's there.
He is
He's
here. But
available.
I am gonna go Jack Cohn, quarterback, Notre Dame. And the reason I say that is a 7th round pick. It's a flyer pick. Honestly, you could probably get him at your second round pick, but I've only got one pick here. 65.5% completion percentage, 6'3", 218. He's a bigger body. He's going to be similar to that mold of closer to Carson Wentz than he is Taylor Heineke. I think he's got a pretty decent arm, and he had moments. But he's definitely not going to push anybody to start. He'll probably be a practice squatter. There's going to be no pressure from the fan base to put Jack Cohn in the game if Carson Wentz throws an interception.
Will you
So
throw Kelly up there just so we can see what his stats look like?
asinine. 73% completion percentage on 408 completions for 5,156 yards.
Yep. 43 touchdowns.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making me think about it, but I don't know. 6'7", that's huge.
I mean, I guess the crazy question, and we were talking about this before we started this, why is nobody talking about Cole? I mean, I know it's southeastern Louisiana, and I know we've drafted quarterbacks that had crazy stats out of the state of Hawaii, right? Or University of Hawaii before, and it didn't translate to the NFL. But still, if you're going to take a flyer, you gotta think about that one.
Yeah, I get it, but I still think they're going to try to get, maybe it's just the competition, but I'm still going to go with Cohn. Jack Cohn, quarterback, Notre Dame. Which means we have one more pick coming up, and chances are there will still be quarterbacks available.
I just went and pulled up a Cole Kelly highlight package, and within 3 plays, my impression is I can't remember the kid. I asked before, but no one remembered. There was a kid who was either 6'8" or 6'10" who came out and went to Seattle back in the 90s or the aughts. And everyone got excited. He reminds me of him. He's a big, tall dude who stands.
Is it not Tavares? It's not Tavares Jackson, is it?
No, he was a white quarterback, and I'll remember. I'll look it up. I don't think Mr. Kelly can get out of his own shadow in an NFL pocket.
It is. It's Tavares Jackson.
Dan McGuire, maybe.
Dan McGuire. That's the one.
He's 6'8". Yeah, he was 6'8".
Yeah, Mr. Kelly looks great throwing in a clean pocket, but man, I just don't think he's going to be able to survive in the NFL. He can't move.
He can't move.
Well, he can run it. He's a runner. They say he can really rush.
How
I
quick
don't know
is
if he can
release
survive
though?
physically. He might get broken in half, but
Yeah, take a look at his YouTubes and see him. You'll see what I'm saying. It scares me to think of him facing an NFL pass rush.
So we're on the clock again. There's still a bunch of the names that we had talked about before,
I think
including
there's a
Joshua
glitch in
Williams.
the matrix with Joshua Williams.
you got to take Josh Williams if he's sitting there in the last pick. I mean, am I wrong on that?
Fayetteville State.
He had
is
30.
long.
Yeah. He's 6'3", 195, ran a 4.53. I mean, his stats in 2021, he had like 31 tackles, no picks, 3 pass breakups out of Fayetteville State. But he's that. I mean, I would be surprised if he's available there. But who else? Let's keep looking here.
Your tackle's still there.
We have not added a safety if we were looking at position need.
Yeah, but I don't know. A lot
Joshua
of people,
Williams is the highest rated historically Black college and university player in the 2022 draft.
who?
Joshua Williams.
Oh,
I wanted to go take a look and see what we're missing here.
I know we like to take offensive linemen at late because there's
and
still
special teamers.
There was one guy that I
Yeah,
had.
which brings us back to
Vincent
Lynn.
Gray is still there.
That's that guy, Valus Jones, that I was talking about, that wide receiver. He was a special teams player of the year with Jamison Williams. they tied for special teams player of the year in the SEC. I'm sure he's long gone, but that guy had like 1,000 return yards. So if we pick somebody late, I want it to be Velus Jones out of Tennessee. If we don't pick a wide receiver early.
But he's gone, right?
Oh, he's gone now. I'm sure he is. Yeah.
Just trying to look it down. Nobody else is really jumping out at me.
Well, you get down to this level, it's like who, what?
Wade Bolton out of Alabama, cornerback. I looked at him for the cornerbacks last week.
Oh, who was that kid that was anticipated being an undrafted free agent that you talked about that we actually
Womack
visited with?
Out of Tulsa?
Yeah.
At what position?
Corner.
Yeah, I think it was Womack out of Tulsa, although there was another one that I looked
Womack.
at that was also a punt returner and kick returner. Now I'm trying to remember his name.
It was Womack because you're related to someone named Womack.
Yeah, it was my grandmother's maiden name was Womack. So my little brother's middle name. But
somebody wants to trade with us. Arizona wants to trade with us, and LA Rams want to trade with us.
The Rams are like, please, for God's sake, send us a draft pick.
they're not, they you know what, that Lombardi trophy looks pretty good. They're not exactly worried about it at the moment.
You are correct, sir.
They got exactly what they wanted.
Who did you say? Was somebody talking about Quinterio Cole earlier?
No.
Okay.
Not
I
I.
didn't look at safeties, so I don't know. I don't recognize any of these guys.
I feel like we should be looking at special teamers here.
Yeah.
I think we are.
If they're not, they will be.
There's not much there, unfortunately, at this point in the draft.
What do the
There's a
linebackers
couple,
look like?
couple names: Jerrion Ely, Snoop Connor, 5'10", 222. It's like a bowling ball.
Who does it show if you select special teamers? Is that just kickers?
I think
far
it's
as-
just long snappers and
Kickers probably.
punters,
Let's draft another long snapper.
punters, kickers, and long snappers.
Yeah.
We got the cheese, man. We're good.
Eric, what is there for tight ends?
Conor Hayward. I think he's gonna be. I think that is a long snapper who's listed as a tight end. Like Cheeseman's listed as a tight end. I think that's what that is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if Cole Turner would have still been there. He was one of the most productive tight ends in college football. I've seen him be available in the 7th round before in this, but
He went
it seems as though
right
he's not.
there. He went
I'm not
5 picks ago.
familiar with any of these guys that are still available.
They're undersized. So, do we want to take a shot at somebody here? Josh Williams is the pick, right? I'm assuming.
That's what I would do. I mean, I think it's a glitch in the program that he's still there, but I was just watching. I mean, he's a big, rangy, fast kid. Might develop into some secondary depth anyway. And special teams.
All right. Anybody opposed to that?
Nope.
Speak now or it's over.
Now they're gonna mock us with their grades.
That's why they call it a mock draft.
Yeah, because you just set yourself up for mock.
So we definitely drafted for need. I think we have to acknowledge that to an extent.
Yeah, and I think we did the thing that a lot of fans do, and we looked at versatility. Oh, we already drafted a wide receiver, so we can't take another wide receiver. But in reality, teams don't think that way. Same thing,
They loved our Joshua Williams pick.
Yeah, of course, A-. He's ranked 117, and we got so it's all based on.
See, we're right in the meat. We're right in the meat of the curve. Not showing off, not flunking out.
Yeah, but you're talking London and Anderson are probably the only 2 starters on that draft, right?
I would expect both of those guys to, certainly London would be starting. Anderson, you'd hope would be at least playing, what, 40 or 50% of snaps, be in all sorts of packages.
And Brian Robinson would definitely have a role within our offense
I think so.
from a standpoint of being able to show some sort of production.
Well, and if history is any indicator at all, at some point in time during the season, Marquise Hayes is going to start as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, we were kicking it around, so I went and looked. The one thing I didn't hear anybody mention is the fact that our free agent signing at guard this year, quit that.
Andrew Norwell.
Yeah, Norwell's going to be 31 before the season ends.
Yeah,
He's not a spring chicken either. And Schweitzer's not. Hang on, I didn't look.
Schweitzer's actually younger than him, then, isn't he? Schweitzer
is younger than him, but not by a lot. Schweitzer's 28, and by the end of the season will be 29.
Right.
So neither one of our projected starting guards at the moment are young guys. Now they could both go on to play another 4 years. That's not uncommon anymore. But
right.
At the same token, it's also possible that neither of them gets through the entirety of the season either.
We've had injuries at every position we drafted in the last 2 years. So I think from a depth perspective, it's hard to argue that we didn't need beyond the first couple of picks where we have starters.
And to be fair, that 7th round pick, that QB could easily be another O lineman. You know what I mean? That there could be a tackle or another guard there.
Yeah.
Or a versatile guy that can play inside or outside, that swing position. And you wonder what you do with Sadiq Charles. See, Sadiq Charles is probably a full-time guard at this point, right?
I would think so.
On the teams, no, this is the ESPN depth chart. Sorry. On the ESPN depth chart, they've got him backing up Charles Leno. Now on the team's depth chart, which is probably not official at this point in time. Let me go look at that.
Because who else? We don't have any other tackles. It's Leno, Cosme, Cornelius Lucas. Did we sign him back?
Yeah,
we signed Lucas back.
And the team's depth chart is woefully out of date. In fact, it doesn't have starting left guards or right guards listed at all. And they've got Sadiq Charles backing up right guard and left tackle.
They're busy painting the field, man.
They are. They are. Deron Payne is still penciled in as the starter. So, we're all good.
One interesting thing that I want to just say about all these picks here, as I'm looking at this list of guys, the one thing that stood out to me is that I can see something like this totally transpiring because I feel like the characteristics of these players have the fingerprints of a Ron Rivera draft all over them. When you think of a guy like Drake London, he's got really good size. Troy Anderson is kind of that versatile player. When Mark was talking about Marquise Hayes, he was using the word mauler and physicality. Brian Robinson is a banger. Joshua Williams has length. Those are all features that Ron Rivera looks for in his players. So I think that this draft, to a large extent, fits the mold of the type of team he's trying to build.
I mean, I don't remember any of these guys being in the news for the wrong reason.
No, I don't think so.
It's funny when you've only got 6 picks, it's hard to cover a lot of ground. I mean, the one thing that jumps out is did not get any help at D tackle. And we just picked one out of 6 guys is a big body on the line, but you can only do so much with 6 picks.
I know they've said that their preference would be to trade down, but we all know, first of all, everyone says that, but then finding a partner who wants to trade up is the trick and getting value for it. And I don't know, I think we talked about this before. As far as like what would make you angry tomorrow night and in the draft overall, I think if we traded down and there were really like some impact players there, Hamilton, Wilson, Jameson, Ellaby, that quality top tier wide receiver. I think if those guys were available and we traded down, I think that would make me mad, because I'm always a little paranoid about trading down, with the idea that really great players are going to be there and again, recognizing it's a crapshoot. We don't really know who the great players are going to be. It's all based on projection until it's not based on projection. But that just makes me nervous. I don't know if I'd be mad if they trade down. I'm just going to be skeptical and nervous about it.
It seems to me if you're drafting high enough in the first round to have a shot at a legitimate blue chip player, I really hate to pass on them, because teams that
don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink it. That's the way I feel about it.
Teams, I mean, there's an argument always to be made that you add depth and you keep building your roster, but to actually win something in the NFL, once you've built that roster, you have to have blue chip players, guys who make the difference late in the fourth quarter when games are on the line against good teams. If you got a shot at 11 to take a legitimate blue chip player, I think you almost have to take them at this point for this team. If you're the Texans, maybe not. The Texans they need a lot, and they need a lot of bodies, but we're not really in that position at this point.
Would Dallas seriously take Leo Chenal? They list LB as a need for them.
I think Dallas has to, man, they got to start rebuilding that offensive line, because that's
Well,
They lost Van Der Esch is like done, right?
Is he?
hang on.
He missed a lot of time. I don't think he's the guy they
Chad
thought he was. I
Muma.
think they're trying to fill that hole.
Muma went all the way to 59.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either.
Where did Jelani Woods go?
He went,
I'm thinking he's going to be like a third rounder, maybe.
I think it was further down here. It was before, where am I? Fourth. It was before a fourth round pick. Well, yeah, he went, there you go, third round to the Browns.
Oh, poor bastard.
That's another name to watch, is David Bell.
So I guess another question that could kind of jumble things up tomorrow
Linebacker.
is Baker Mayfield going to get traded here on the eve of the draft by
Bigger-
somebody that
Maybe.
Oh, bigger question is Daron Payne going to get traded on the eve on draft night?
I'm not
sadly
feeling that.
probably not. Sadly,
I'm not feeling that at all.
I think they're just going to keep them at that's what we do, man. We keep guys and then we get nothing for them when they leave. That's what we do.
Part of me hopes we trade him.
I do
Well, I
want
mean, let's talk about what we would get for him. I mean, you just to trade him, no. But if somebody's going to make an offer that makes sense, of course you listen to it.
I'm thinking a 2 and a 4. I don't think we get a 1 for him.
I don't think there's any way we get a 1 for him.
I'm not sure we'll get a 2 for him. And the thing is, most teams don't wait until again, their plan may be to hold on to him because they think they're going to make noise this year and they feel like the value's there, and then we say goodbye to him. But I just hate that plan, because you trade him when you have leverage, like at the beginning of free agency, not when everyone believes you're going to trade him and you have to trade him to get something back for him. So, and I know people say, oh, we'll get the compensatory pick. Well, the only way we get a compensatory pick for him is if we elect not to sign any big free agents,
and somebody else paid.
So that's not really a great option. That's like we're handcuffing ourselves to get a third rounder or whatever it would be. So I just don't understand. Sometimes it feels like they're not really planning at all. They're just kind of like,
I don't know. I know it looks that way sometimes, but when we talk about trading Daron Payne, I mean, are we calling other teams and saying, hey, we're trying to shop this guy? I mean, if the phone rings and someone says, hey, we love Daron Payne, what will it take to get him? That's different. But
we're saying we're not re-signing him. We've said we're not re-signing him. At least that's
right. Well,
that's essentially saying
it was reported in the Athletic by Standig that it's been made very clear that there's no intention to sign him. It's not like Rivera came out and said it, but to that point, if we're not going to sign him, trade him. Like,
The
Yeah.
part of it that I don't like is that they would announce anything. I don't think they needed to say anything. Just if you're gonna do that, that's fine, but you don't broadcast
Oh,
it.
I don't know that they broadcasted it, but as much as maybe somebody looked and said, "Hey, you haven't signed Payne. Do you intend to?" And there was a stutter. You know what I mean? Like, well, we got to sign Terry. Okay, well,
I would just like to hear I would love to have someone in the front office explain, how does that make us better? To keep him for one more season, get nothing from him, when we probably could have got a second if we traded him after the offseason, or, I mean, at worst, an early third. And now we're not going to get.
you could have held on to Settle. You could have signed
Yeah,
Settle
right.
to the.
That's right. It doesn't make any sense. I want to believe it makes sense, believe me, but letting Settle go, not signing Ioannidis, and then.
Well, it's not signing him. You cut him.
Or,
You
okay,
released
well, so it's hard to understand what they're thinking with that one. I don't get it.
But again, all of this assumes that there's somebody out there who wants to give up a third or a second for Daron Payne. Maybe they have tried to do it.
I think you can get a 2 and a 4 or a 2 and a 5. If you get a 2 and a 4 or 2 and a 5, I think you jump at that opportunity, especially if that 2 is this year.
Thing is,
I mean,
we'll never know, right?
I don't know why we would think there wouldn't be a market for him. But I mean, you're right. We don't know, but it's hard to give this team the benefit of the doubt. It's hard for me too.
It's very hard.
Tell you what, when Daron Payne punches Jonathan Allen on the sideline, I didn't think he'd play another game, much less be here another year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that helped his case, right?
That was not a good moment.
Even if they tried to play it down, and I think they were closer to being correct than the fans were. I think they were, that it was just it was two brothers fighting.
It's football and shit happens. I mean, I think that's pretty accurate, probably, but
at the same time, it's also 2022. It's a different world now.
And if you're on the fence, every little bit of information, is part of that, right?
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, I'm pretty happy with it. I think we did okay. Oh, one more thing. Pretty obvious to do. Not surprising. We picked up the 5th-year option of Montez Sweat today.
Yep.
So he'll be under contract for all of 22 and 23, correct?
That should give him time to break the all-time sack record.
So I think we're going to shock the world, and 2 of our picks will turn out to be right from this list. And I'm curious to see whether Cole Kelly or Jack Cohn gets drafted for the other. We'll see about that too. Kelly may not get drafted.
Are you putting 2 of these picks in your draft pool list, Paul or John?
I did mine mostly with our picks from the pods. When I got to the 7th round, I couldn't find any guys that we actually talked about, so I had to kind of wing it. But yeah, I put for the draft contest, which you can still get in on BGO, BGObsession.com.
When's the deadline on that?
As we talked about.
What?
When is the deadline, Paul?
So tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I set 6 o'clock as the deadline.
You'll have mine. I'm going to actually do it this year.
So in mine, I only chose players that we formally met with. And I did that because I want to see how much of an actual smokescreen that is. And
That's cool.
For all I know, and it's very likely, we'll probably end up picking none of the guys that I have on my list. So.
We need to go back and look and see. I know they met with London. I'm sure they met with Anderson. I don't know about anybody else.
They did meet with Anderson.
I think they met with Cohn, maybe. I want to say they did. But we should check on that, see if
I bet you Bob's already got it queued up.
No, but I'm getting there.
Quick, we got to stall a little bit.
Somebody talk for a second.
So let's just go down the line. Who do you guys want? Assuming they're there, who do you guys want us to pick at 11 specifically?
Well, I told you my top 3 in this order are Hamilton, Jameson Williams, Drake London.
Yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. I think Jameson Williams can be an awesome talent. But part of me kind of wonders as well about his injury. And is he actually going to be ready to play, or are we just hearing a bunch of talk from his agents and people in his corner who want to improve his draft status?
Well, it was a championship game. He tore his ACL, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
My understanding is he won't be ready at the beginning of the season. You're not getting him to start on day one. You're getting him as an investment. By
Right.
the end of the year, he should be playing, and by year 2, he should be ready. If he doesn't lose anything to the injury and he picks up the game, and you've basically got a first round pick next year in addition to your first round pick. It's not an instant gratification pick, though.
I can tell you what I don't want at 11. I definitely don't want Chris Ellaby at 11. That's not to say I don't like him, but I just feel that if we pick him at 11, it kind of feels like a bit of a reach. I think there are some safer receivers that we can pick if we decided that receiver is the spot we want to target in the 11th spot.
My top 3 for 11 would be, I'm going to say Drake London, and then Garrett Wilson would be my number 2, and then Kyle Hamilton. And I don't know. I like I said, normally I might say Kyle Hamilton first, except I feel like they got to get Wentz some extra weaponry there. I think that's got to be a priority. But I won't be at all surprised if we don't pick a wide receiver in the draft. Having said that,
Well,
who do you want, Derek?
I'm gonna buck the trend here, and I know you guys probably won't like it. I am in favor. If Hamilton is not there, I am almost in favor of trading down as much as anything. But the reason that I'm saying that is because I think, looking on here, you can get a guy like Sky Moore. He went 29 to the Chiefs. That guy is a scatty type. He's smaller, but he's shifty. 5'10", 195. He's not a burner, but he's very versatile and he's able to do a lot of things. But the name that I completely cannot get past is Treylon Burks. So in a perfect world, you trade back. I would love to trade to 20. If we could pick up Pittsburgh's second round pick this year and do that, or a third or whatever, and you still end up with a guy like Treylon Burks where you address wide receiver and you still got that second to address linebacker, and you can then be picking from a much bigger pool.
What if we go Kyle Hamilton if he's there at 11? What if we go Kyle Hamilton?
I'm happy.
At 11, what about Pickens? What do you guys think about Pickens with this if he's there in this at 47?
That dude was wide receiver 1 till he got hurt, right? But I've heard there has been massive character concerns with him. He's not putting in the work. He's kind of living off of previous, but as far as a receiver goes, physically speaking, I think he's as good as you're going to find. It's just making sure you can put it on the field. Here's what I don't want. I don't want a running back at 11. I can tell you that. I don't want a tight end at 11.
And there's no linebacker at 11 either.
I don't want a linebacker at 11.
Yeah.
Much to my dismay.
Now, if we could trade back to 20, I wouldn't have any problem with taking Devin Lloyd at that point in time. But
I don't really.
I know you don't like the trade back.
If we took the corner at 11, but I don't want us to, because we don't seem to have a lot of luck with corners.
If Stingley or Gardner is there, yeah, but at the same time, you drafted St. Juste in the third, and you're paying Fuller and Jackson $10 million a pair. Are you going to shelf Jackson to play your first round? You know what I mean? Like, what value is he bringing the team? Where in the sum of all parts is he elevating the level of the team? That's my only question.
Yeah, but all right, I was busy looking up something else while we were going round robin. The only guy I want more than London at 11 is Gardner. And if Gardner's there, the dude has shut everybody down he played for the last 3 years. I
So
mean,
then what?
nobody is making any catches on this dude. As a freshman, he shut
I'm
down
only-
a guy that put up 200 yards in the AFC Championship game this last year.
I'm only saying it's a possibility because of what we talked about where St. Just has already racked up like 3 or 4 concussions in one season in the NFL. So it's possible they are very concerned about that. And if somebody falls to them,
Well,
I
not
could
only
see
that,
that.
they only have 4 corners on their contract right now,
Right.
right? I think
Right.
it's Fuller, Jackson, St. Just, and Johnson. I think are the only 4 guys that are currently under contract. So there's an argument to be made. And if St. Just is that guy, then that's fine. Gardner is your number 2, Jackson's your number 1, and Fuller slides in, he's your slot guy until Gardner can surpass Jackson.
You know, Gardner, London, I guess Hamilton, if he's still there, I'm not convinced.
Hamilton, you're not?
Hamilton, no, I feel like I've seen this story in Landon Collins. And I feel like he's going to end up playing a small linebacker position. I mean, if he's everything everybody thinks he is as a safety, that's great. But I'm not sure I'm seeing it.
Well,
Definitely don't want a quarterback at 11. They draft a quarterback at 11. I'm throwing in the towel. I don't know if I'll be on another podcast. All right. I'll be on another podcast because I like hanging out with you guys. But
Well, you'd have to come tell us why you don't like Kenny Pickett.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All the way to the Super Bowl. I'll complain about the Kenny Pickett pick.
I'm
Hey,
with you.
if that goes all the way to Super Bowl, then I will eat all the crow in the world. You will not find me. You know what I mean?
And to answer the question that I was looking up a minute ago, who have we met with as far as quarterbacks are concerned? We have met with 4. Matt Corral out of Ole Miss, which I think we're all pretty well decided that we would be less than tickled with. Sam Howell out of North Carolina.
Desmond
Ritter out of Cincinnati, and
Malik
the
Willis.
last one is Malik Willis. Yep, those are the 4 quarterbacks that we have met with. So
we need to be concerned about pick 47 because Willis, I don't think Willis will be there. I think somebody's going to move up and snatch him.
ooh,
Just
Brian. Oh wait, we also met with Carson Strong. So we met with 5 quarterbacks.
Okay.
I
Brian
think
Robinson.
47, those are all second pick prospects. If you really want them, like Ritter and Strong and Coral.
Well, none of them are going 11.
Right. But so if they're going to make a move, at least from the guys they met with, it sounds like that
Excuse me.
pick to watch.
So
While you were running our draft, Eric, I was running it alongside here, so I could be looking at players available. On mine, when my 4th round pick came along, Carson Strong was there.
In the 4th.
But yep, at 113. So when that popped up earlier, when I did one yesterday of these, I've rethought my position on Carson Strong. If he's there at 113, I would love to see us take the kid and let him develop. I didn't realize he was coming off essentially playing on one leg and still throwing for 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
Kid's
I
got
read
some
up
talent.
more on him. We watched
Hey.
a little bit of his highlights this weekend and we were not super impressed, but when you start reading about him, he may have something.
God, he's
Well,
got a big time NFL arm, you know, and
he's got the arm to make every throw.
Yeah.
Can he know the throw to make?
you get
So,
someone like that in the 4th round, I think you pretty much have to take him.
Brian Robinson was also on the list of players that we met with.
There you go.
And Paul's guy, I
about
can't
Troy
get over
Anderson?
Perry. I
Who?
can't get over Perry on Winfrey.
What about Troy Anderson, our second pick linebacker? Did they
No,
meet with him?
he is actually not on the list.
They met with him.
Troy Anderson?
I'm almost positive.
Somebody
they-
said before that we had met with him.
They met with Chad Muma.
Are you looking at Walter?
Yeah, I'm looking at Walter.
What about
Where's he at?
Hayes, the offensive lineman? Is he on there? The guard?
I did not see him. We met
you're
with
making
He's
the other
our
liars.
stealth candidate, John. He's a stealth guy.
Tyree Johnson, outside linebacker.
Yeah, you made a liar out of me. Jesus.
Christian Harris, outside linebacker. No, I am.
I
not
swear to
seeing-
God, I thought we met with Anderson. I am almost positive we met with Anderson because that was how I even figured out who he was.
So that's fascinating though, man, to think, how often do they pick guys that they've never met with, that they've never really like had to
Well,
sit
hang
down?
on. Let me see.
I wonder if it
I
happens, does it
can
happen all the
find-
time? Or is it a rarity, or I don't
It
know.
happens all the time because you hear players say, I'm surprised they picked me. I
Yeah.
never even heard from them.
Yeah, you do hear that.
Yep.
Let me go back and see if I can find last year's.
Maybe there's players that they're just like, there's no way that guy's going to be available where we're picking. So let's focus our attention elsewhere. I don't know.
Hey, Bob, is the list that you're looking at just the top 30 visits? Because I feel that there was another list that was put out there as well that included guys that they potentially met with, like at the combine or.
This has the combine.
Oh, does it? Okay.
I swear to God, we met with Troy Anderson.
You would think somebody would have back like last year's list, but I'm having a hard time finding last year's list. Because now
But
I'm
he's not
curious.
on
I
this
want to go
list.
back and now I want to see, are we predisposed? Or is that really something we're using as a smokescreen?
He is definitely not on this list.
Well, let's get this thing posted up, gents. We are what, 20,
Yeah,
22 hours away from the draft.
we're late.
Yeah, we'll probably be making our pick. Let's see, if we're picking 11, average of 15 minutes, we'll probably be about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours into it before we make our pick, right?
Something
So,
like that. Not
We'll
everyone
be-
will take the 15, but some will.
right.
Yeah.
All
Is it
right,
still
fellas.
15 or did
Good
they
job,
shorten it to
guys.
10?
Actually, you know what? They might have shrunk it to 10.
I thought they had shortened it to 10, but what do I know?
So
All
Derek,
right, gentlemen.
there's your answer just before we go. We met with Troy Anderson at the Senior Bowl.
Okay. That was
The
not
court-
on the Walter list, but
Yeah,
I
I know
know
it's not-
we had met with him.
It's on a different list that I saw on Rigo's Rag
Okay.
that mentions it.
All right. Well, thank you, gents. It's been a pleasure. We'll have this posted on bgobsession.com. I downloaded the actual the picture of it. So I'll post that with the thread with the link to the PFF mock simulator if anybody wants to jump on there, and we'll go from there.
Well
All right.
done,
Good job,
gents.
guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, boys.